Well, today it is Sean Hood here with FM99, and I am joined by Sam Carter of the Architects. Thank you so much for joining me, Sam.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today? Where are you right now?
I am at home, which is in Brighton, in England, just on the south coast. Yeah, just by the sea. Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. Nice day. Lovely day outside.
Nice. Well, good. Hopefully you've been able to stay safe and keep yourself from going crazy during the last year while everything's been kind of shut down, as we should say, in the world.
Yeah.
But you guys obviously have been putting a lot of work in on this new album that you just released in February, For Those That Wish to Exist. Really excited to talk to you about that today. It came out on February 26th. I'm going to jump right into the title of the album. I've got some other stuff I want to talk to you about, but that jumped out at me. For Those That Wish to Exist. It's kind of an ominous title. Almost a little. It's. I don't know, man. There's something about it that grabbed me. The second I read it, I was like, "That's dark," but at the same time, I really, really dig that title name. How did you guys come up with that? How did you land on that for the title name?
Yeah, I think it's a really good. I think it's a really good title for the record. Dan came up with it. I think the cool thing about it is you can sort of take what you want from it. You know, whether you need to be dragged through this existence of what we're in right now and what we face as a world, or whether you're one of those people that wants to fight for what's here and loves the world, you know. And I think everybody has their different reasons for why they exist, whether that be partners, friends, family, or whether you exist because you want to leave the world in a better place than where you found it. But I think the great thing about the record is it's there for interpretation for everyone.
That's kind of what I was looking at it as well, because I mean, with the last year we've had, especially, the title really kind of rings, whether that was intentional or not, that title really kind of rings true with the last year we've had here around the world, For Those That Wish to Exist. How much of this was written during, I want to say, the pandemic era, you know what I mean? Or was it mostly written by then and you guys were just recording?
Yeah, everything was written. The whole thing was written, and we started recording it during the first lockdown that we had. So the initial sort of phase of it. But yeah, everything was written and ready to go. Titles for the songs and everything. So it was really interesting, how much it really did connect with people because of what was happening. And yeah, it's funny because so many of the lyrical themes you could really take as sort of being written during the pandemic. So, I completely understand why some people would think that. So, yeah, it's, we've sort of been heading towards this sort of moment of a reset for a long time, I think. And I think we've sort of been, I don't think we were aware of what it was going to be, but I think we knew we were heading towards having to make some changes. And now I think, it's really been put on everybody's doorsteps.
I think you're right. I think that one of the things the pandemic did was kind of make everybody realize, even on a world scale, that everybody's kind of interconnected and we're kind of all in this together. And the album, like you said, listening to it, I was listening to the album even just this morning, and I'm listening to it wondering, was this about the pandemic? And so it's interesting to me that none of it was written during the pandemic era. You said you were recording it and everything during that first lockdown. How difficult was the recording process? Because I know some parts of the world had more strict lockdowns than others.
Yeah, it was really strange, actually, at the start. Normally, we're all in the studio together. But me and Dan always record the vocals separately. But it was very strange this time because obviously the guys had to record their guitars at home and then we reamped them in other studios. Dan had to record the drums by himself in another studio, and then me and Dan would arrive at the studio we were doing vocals at in separate cars. We'd have to, we couldn't share a taxi on the way down. Couldn't turn up at the same time. There was all these rules in place. I'd turn up and then have to go in the vocal booth, and he'd be in the studio. So yeah, it was really really strange. But luckily we'd had a lot of time together before that, and as I say, the album was written and ready to go. So it was mainly just going and getting those great takes and making sure that we were doing the best job we could. And, the guys are fantastic musicians and are very hard on themselves. So, they knew what they needed to do. And yeah, same with me and Dan, we needed to just go in and focus and get those takes. And yeah, we were really, really happy with what we did do.
Yeah, I mean, the album came out sounding great. Obviously, the single "Animals" right now is a hot song. I love that song. One that jumped out at me, by the way, I just want to throw it out there because I personally love it. "Demigod."
Hmm.
Musically, I think that's such a cool song, dude. I love that
Thank you.
song so much. The vocals on everything are so good too because I'm a big fan of melodic vocals that lead into really hardcore, and
Hmm.
Demigod is perfect with that in the music and the vocals.
Yeah,
Because it starts off, I mean, the music is so melodic and it just picks up at different parts. But anyways,
yeah.
this is a little bit of me geeking out because I love that song so much.
Yeah,
Do you?
do you know what? Do you know what's funny is like I love that song as well. It's like one of my favorites, and I think that song's been brought out by so many people that like a real musos. You know, like it's like a
Yeah.
like it felt like quite a brave choice putting it on the record, but I think
Hmm.
we believed in the song so much that as you say, like in that song, I think there was something for everybody. And I love the string arrangement at the start of that
Hmm.
song is so really reminds me of the Beatles, like really like I am the walrusy type strings, and that's my shit. So I was really happy with that song.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a great song. Seriously, hey, I'm looking right at you watching this right now. Go listen to it if you haven't already. The whole album is really good though. It's one of those, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. It's one of those albums that I could put on and listen to it track after track and really enjoy. So kudos to you and
Thank
all
you,
the gentlemen working on it. It's a really good album. Um,
thank you.
you guys were talking about the lockdown being somewhat difficult and everything. I mean, we've had different variations of that all around the world. When you weren't recording the album, what were you doing to keep yourself from going crazy?
I was just going crazy.
You had no plan. That was all you had.
Yeah, that was it. No, it's been super weird. I think in particular, I think obviously everybody has it tough, but I think people in bands and musicians, we're so used to going at 500 miles an hour. Like there's almost we're so distracted that there's no time to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
So for everything to just stop, it was. I think I'm friends with a lot of people in bands, and that's what happens when you've been in a band for like 15 or so years.
Yeah.
Most of your friends end up being people you've toured the world with. And it's been really nice because it's felt like there's this real sort of connection and like kind of real honesty with each other where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, how you doing? Like, do you want to talk? Like, how are you feeling? And I think a big thing that a lot of my friends and myself have gone into, we got into like running and trying to exercise. I think without really realizing it, I think a lot of us were quite addicted to the adrenaline that you get every single night. You're
Absolutely. Yeah.
so used to that, like 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm gonna shout and lose my shit for an hour, and then I'm gonna feel like I've done something. And if you don't have that, it's difficult. So yeah, getting into running and trying to get those endorphins flowing, and yeah, conversations with friends, I think has been so key. And I think it's a good time because it makes you really realize who those like great people in your life are that you want to speak to all the time and check in on. I
Mhm.
think you can really build up those connections, can't you? When there's nothing else to be distracted by, you're not at a
Mhm.
bar and you're not like, having a million conversations. You're just like one on one with somebody, and I really feel like it's been a good time for friendships to really solidify as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I understand what you mean about the endorphins and missing out on that. I mean, there's events
Yeah,
that we can't do and stuff. And my girlfriend, God love her, bought me a weight bench towards
yeah,
the beginning of the quarantine because I don't know if you can tell just from looking at me, I don't run much, but I'll pick up heavy
yeah,
things and put them down. So I needed something as well. So I completely get that thought process. Not
yeah.
to mention,
And I think it's interesting for everyone as well because I think it's made us realize as well, not that we didn't realize, but really make us realize music is so important for everybody. It's a real thing for fans, people that work for bands, people that work in the bars and the venues. It's like everybody is. It's not just the bands and the people on tour. It's the whole community around it that has been massively affected by it. So yeah, it makes you realize how connected everybody is, and how we
absolutely.
really are all working together. I just can't wait to be back and just feel that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, we all want you to be back and doing that so we can all share that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say what it was like not being able to. You've released this new album,
Hmm.
February. I think it came out on the 26th, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
And you haven't been able to tour it. Like you haven't been
No.
able to play these songs in front of anybody. It's literally just we're gonna put it on the internet. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's out there for you to check out. So, what has it been like? Kind of only getting your feedback that way.
Do you know what's it's so surreal? I mean, it's the first time we've ever had a #1 album, which is
Hmm.
crazy in the UK. Like, to be top of the charts is absolutely something that we never
Congratulations,
thought
by the
would
way.
happen. Thank you. Which we never thought would happen. It's happened in Australia and around the world. Like, seeing those numbers has been unbelievable. But normally we don't really think about those things because we're so wrapped up in playing the shows and
Right.
experiencing how those new songs go down every night. But now
Right.
we're sort of like looking at these numbers and being like, whoa, what is this going to be like when we go back? Like, this is sort of every album you sort of feel it out a little bit, and now it feels like we're gonna like go back in and just be like pushed in at the deep end. And yeah, I can't wait for it. I just to think that we've never played Animals as a band to people is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be crazy when we can.
The one thing that I think will be really interesting is that as speaking with other musicians that have put out music in the same issue, they haven't been able to tour it. One of the weirdest things I've heard them say is that being able to go to these shows and play these quote unquote new songs and
Yeah,
everybody will know the words will be
yeah,
odd because you're used to playing a new song and maybe some of the people in the crowd know it, but not everybody.
yeah,
But now you'll go out there and do Animals for the first time finally, and you're gonna have a whole crowd of people singing along.
yeah. It's normally you sort of get used to playing those songs and how they are and how they feel. And yeah, I feel like this time is going to be so surreal. Like, everyone's going to be like enjoying it, and you're going to be like, "Oh, guys, I've got to be honest, I don't even know if I can sing this properly yet. Like, give me 2 shows to figure it out. Give me 2 shows to get this under my belt, and well,
Well,
I'm
when you
cruising.
guys when yeah, yes, exactly, when you guys do get back out there and you get to tour and stuff like that again, I know one of the big things that you guys focus on is you're really into sustainability. That's something that you guys focus on a
Mhm,
lot. Sustainability is particularly with your travel schedule and your merchandise, artifact or architects merch company. How does
mhm.
that work with touring? How does creating sustainability work with your touring?
I think it's an interesting thing. I think when you do things like that, you have to, you're never going to be perfect, and I think
Hmm.
it doesn't need the entire world to be perfect to make a big difference. It just needs people making those steps towards trying to do something.
Right.
I think things with us, I think we're not one of those bands that will fly to America and then fly back to the UK and then fly back to America and fly back to the UK and fly back to America. If we're out in America, we're out there for like 4 or 5 weeks, in the places where we go. But I think a big thing for us, and I think a thing that people should think about is offsetting their carbon footprint when they book their flights. You can do that nowadays, which is amazing. Like with some of these airlines where you can pay extra to be able to offset what you've used, and whether they'll plant something or use some other kind of energy for it. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing, and obviously it's a luxury. And a lot of younger bands won't be able to, can barely afford the flights. Like, we've been there before, and had been for 13, 14 years of our career. But I think if you're in that position and you're able to talk about things that are important to you, and you are pushing that side, and you do have the money to be able to do that, then you should do that.
I think it's a good example to set, especially for those younger bands who are hoping to get where you are now.
Yeah,
I think that's the right idea to put out there. And I mean, obviously, in the world we live in, we know that everybody's very focused on, a lot of companies very focused on green new tech and renewable resources and trying to make that shift. So again, I think it's
yeah.
all part of a cultural movement. And actually, speaking of that cultural movement, there's always been a theme in rock music. If you go back and look through it, it's kind of been that challenging authority or society in some form, like of an outside force. It's
Hmm.
it's the government, it's our parents, it's teachers, it's whoever we're challenging. Your new album, For Those That Wish to Exist, as I'm listening to it, it is like challenging something, but it's not challenging an outside force. It's almost like there's a mirror held up to yourself, and you're saying, stop blaming everybody outside of yourself. Start looking at what you're doing wrong and
Yeah,
start challenging, And I think that's such a cool evolution of kind of the same idea of rock music standing up to something. But this time
yeah.
is, again, holding up that mirror to yourself. Is that always been kind of the idea of the album, or did that just kind of happen?
I think it's just a natural progression of where we've come as a band and what we've talked about. I think a lot of people get it twisted, and I think in the sense of like pointing the finger at people and asking them to do stuff that they're not doing. It's almost like
Hmm.
that, like moral high ground, like, I'm doing this, so you should do it too.
Hmm.
And as I said earlier on, nobody's perfect, we're
Right.
all in this together, and we're all affected by what's happening on, and I'm, you know, very upset about climate change. I'm very upset about the way that people treat this world, but I'm not out on the streets protesting every day. It's
Right.
not,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not I'm not the answer to everything. I'm just
Hmm.
floating through this, and we're all floating through this as a band, just explaining and pointing out what's going on in the world and putting it in front of people and saying, well, how does this make you feel? Rather than just like, why aren't you doing anything? And then being sat
Right.
at home sat at home watching Netflix, being like, la 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 la, isn't this terrible? It's like we're all in it together, and the only way we're ever gonna make these big changes that we need in the world is if we kind of stop fighting against each other and just have a conversation and just be like, how do we want the world to look in 50 years? How do we want to leave it
Right.
for our kids and for our kids' kids? It doesn't need to be an argument or a
Yeah.
confrontation. It just needs to be just a looking around at the facts, and people, not trying to outdo each other with their knowledge or what they know, and just trying to feel like you want to make a difference, and doing it as a group rather than a one person.
I was speaking with somebody about the album, and I said one of the things that I felt like it achieved was it kind of in that same vein you were saying too, not yelling at other people and saying, "Why aren't you doing this?" It's about showing it up, saying, "How does it make you feel? What do you think you should be doing?" I said that something this achieves that some other bands I've heard, that similar idea, but it's different because other bands are kind of talking down to people in that sense of, "Why aren't you doing this?" Whereas this album is speaking to people.
Yeah.
So instead of speaking down, you're speaking to people. And I feel like you said, that creates a situation where it's not an argument. It becomes a conversation at that point. And people are way more receptive to a conversation than an argument.
Absolutely. I think as soon as you raise your voice or you point the finger at someone, I think in my case, I just switch off on my interest.
Yeah.
I don't want that confrontation. But if you put the case in front of somebody and allow them to have their own time to sit with something and learn about it themselves, they may end up becoming, incredibly passionate about it. You can't force people to think the way you do. I think the good thing is, I have a platform that I use to try and educate people as best I can. And I think the fun side of that is, I think some organizations and people think that they can have, pops at me like I work for somebody, or like I have, some sort of income coming in by talking about these things, or that I'm not going to snap at them. But they're very wrong, and they do receive, a little bit back. And I think they just think that they can, like I'm funded by somebody. It's like, no, I just care. And I've, as you say, I grew up in like the hardcore scene, that sort of vibe has always been around, of just like things that maybe aren't in the news, or like, just stories here and there that make you change the way you think and the way you act. So yeah, it's just so important to just not have people switch off and just be like, not be like, I'm doing this, you should do this. Just, how do you feel? Like, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah. Now, speaking about the album again real quick, and this is one of the last big questions I had about the album itself. You have some guest spots on this album. You have Parkway Drive's Winston McCall. You've got Biffy Clyro's Simon Neil, and Mike Kerr from Royal Blood, who I'm a big fan of. How did those come about? Were those guys that you've toured with in the past that you just wanted to work with? Was it a label decision? Like, how did those come about? And how was it trying to record with them during this process as well?
Mike was the only person that we saw in the flesh record, because Royal Blood are like two of my best mates. I love them. We grew
that's
up,
awesome.
We grew up together, and it was. I think it kind of showed where the band was going, that we could do something with them musically and have it make sense. Because we've been around each other for so long as friends, and we rehearsed in the same place. So that was super easy to put that together. And Mike is such a huge talent and amazing voice, and just came in and smashed it. Winston, we've toured around the world with many times, and it's just an amazing vocalist. But he has a studio at home, so we managed to.
Okay, all right.
We asked him when we saw him in Australia, and he was so stoked to do it. And with Simon, we've been fans of Biffy Clyro for a long time, and I think, I don't know how well they do in America, but in the UK, they're like, I mean, just legends of the scene, really. Just the things that they've managed to achieve, and the actual songwriting talents is unbelievable. So Yeah, he was a friend of a friend that we reached out to, and we've always kind of seen each other at awards and other things, and have always been, both of us are very complimentary about each other's bands. So yeah, it was amazing to make that work, and yeah, he absolutely smashed it.
Oh, I like I said, I was listening to the album. Everybody, they all did a fantastic job. Which I have,
Yeah.
of course, knowing who they are, I had no doubt they were going to. Especially Mike Kerr, because like I said, I really like Royal Blood. So the second I saw his name on the list, I was like, oh, cool as hell! Like I was really excited about that.
Yeah, it felt like a really cool thing to do as well, because obviously we're so tight as friends, to be able to have a song that'll be there, but when we're long gone, and it will just be like a time in our lives where people will look back and be like, oh, cool, they must have been buds, and yeah, we're all massive fans of Royal Blood, so it was really great to make that work.
So okay, this is and now at this point, I kind of like to do some fun questions, some random questions, throw them at you, and see where your head's at. Let people get to know you a little bit, just on some random stuff. The first one I have to ask you is a question that I ask everybody. This one never changes, and yes, there's a wrong answer. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
No. Thank you. That's the right answer. Thank you.
Never been interested in it.
Finally, I got somebody to give me the right answer.
Straight away as well. No hesitation.
Exactly right. He didn't even have to think. It was just a gut reaction. What's one of the things you would want to put on your bucket list if you have one?
Bucket list.
You've already toured the world, so it's got to be something different.
I'd like to write a song with Paul McCartney. That's on my big bucket list.
That would be amazing.
Like
Hey, Dave Grohl just did a song with Mick Jagger, so I mean, it's it's possible.
Stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. Okay, who is your favorite superhero and why?
Ooh, I think Batman. He's
Batman,
badass. Yeah,
he is. He's never been my favorite, but I've always had the answer to the question. If somebody says, who wins in a fight, Batman or whoever, the question's always, does he know the fight's coming? Well, then Batman, because he will beat everybody.
And those Nolan films as well, just are like some of my favorite films ever. So
absolutely,
yeah, he's up there.
Absolutely. Okay, well, are you a morning or a night person?
Night. I'm such an asshole in the morning. It takes it before I've had a coffee. It's just like, just don't even bother talking to me. I'm just a very sad man until I've had my coffee, and then I'm like, I'm good. And then normally about between about midnight, I really come to life. I'm really great at that time.
I used to be the same way, and then I started this job doing morning radio, and so I've had to flip my switch. So now, don't talk to me after like 4 p.m. I'm cranky and I want to go to bed. What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Strangest thing I've ever eaten. We had actually. I know what the strangest thing I've ever eaten. We're all vegan, and we were in Hong Kong, and we went to this vegan restaurant. Like, we were taken to this vegan restaurant, and it was one of those places where it had like mock chicken and mock you name it, they've made mock. And the lady that was showing us around, she was like, "You have to try this." And we were like, "What? Why? Sure, it's not, it's not real meat, so I'm down." And we tried mock snail.
Mock snail.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't want snail in the first place, let alone mock snail. So that was the weirdest. That was the weirdest thing I've ever eaten.
Escargot.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What was the last movie you watched?
The last movie I watched was, I think I watched Jaws the other night.
Nice, classic. Classic. I love it.
It's one of my favorite films. So yeah, anytime that's on, I'm watching it.
Yeah, if it's on the television, if I walk through a room and it's on, I sit down. I'm like, well, whatever I was doing is over now. Because I want to sit down and watch Jaws. Yep. And finally, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of rock? So if you had to pick like 4 iconic people in rock, who would you put on there?
John, Paul, George, Ringo. All 4 of them.
The second you said John, I was like, I know where this is going. I know exactly where this is going. And I think that's a really solid answer. I don't think you can do a lot better than that. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining me. It's been a blast talking to you, man.
Thank you very much.
things continue to go well. Can't wait to see you guys make your way out here so you can tour this album. For those that wish to exist, it is out now. If you have not checked it out already, you need to go check it out. It is an awesome album. Again, Demigod, my favorite song on the album. But Animals is a single right now. Check it out. And again, Sam, I hope you guys stay safe, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. Thank you, man.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Bye.